I think we're on. I think we're on. Right, let's see if we can do the follow-up review to that old SV1000. So, okay, let's start at the front. So I got the GSXR 750 K3 K4 upside down forks, and then I got a, I can't remember what it's called, top yokes, rental bar conversion, and then I got a Nitron rear shock, and basically I think I spent a good amount of time trying to dial that bike in, and I ended up popping the forks up through the yokes by about 5 mil or so, just to kind of get some more weight on the front tyre. I think by default putting the rental bars on made me sit up more, so more weight transferred to the back, and it just made the front feel, I don't know, a little bit remote. Suspension wise, it did take a long while to kind of get it right. What I will say is that I did ride around a lot, probably for a good year or so, with the steering dampener removed. In hindsight now, I think I would have put it back on. The reason being is that there was it just felt tipping into, well, change of direction I think was probably a thing that I kind of had some nervousness about. It just felt like it was very wiggly. It didn't feel sure-footed. And I think that had more to do with the steering angle of the forks by default. There's a very aggressive kind of steering angle on it. I ride all the way through the year. So I bought the bike with, like, I think it was 27,000 miles, and I ended up having something like 66,000 miles. So I have driven it quite extensively with that suspension and the rental bars. I don't think for sure. I mean, the person I sold the bike to basically, I think, had the same kind of comments. You know, setting up suspension and how does it feel? You know, how did it feel for you turning into corners and stuff and changing your direction? So I suggested to him, you know, put the steering dampener back on and see if that irons it out. The long-term review of the bike as a whole. There are some things you need to think about with the SV1000. You have the green connector issue. I ended up just hardwiring the loom of the right-hand controller, where that's the start and stop and the start button. I just hardwired the whole thing into the loom because the connections burn out on the green connector. So that's something to have a look and see if that has been done. On the engine is, now I'm going to break this down into two sections. So servicing of the engine is just easy. The scissor gear cams that are on there, basically you can just take the bolts out the top and you can just pull the cams straight off because there's no cam chain running over them. It's just a really nice bike to work on, and you can get into both the front and back cylinder heads relatively easy. The one thing I will say about the engine though, there are two main things that you've got to take into consideration. Now, the mileage on my bike was 27,000 miles, and by that time the clutch basket was starting to rattle. Now, I'm trying to go off memory here. Well, I remember you have a choice. You can buy a replacement clutch basket from Suzuki, or you can get your existing clutch basket reworked by someone who will replace it with brass bushings and all that kind of stuff. And out of those two options, I would go with getting the clutch basket reworked because you won't have that problem again another 30,000 miles later. I think the actual design of the clutch basket was done on a budget, but well, basically the SV1000 was built on a budget. That's why it was so cheap when it came out. And I think the clutch basket was just one of those parts that was made quite cheap. But yes, I got mine reworked with a guy down in Wales in the United Kingdom, and I'd never had a problem with it after it got reworked. Magnets on the magneto, or you know where I'm talking about. Those magnets come loose. I didn't think I had a problem with mine until I put heated grips on, and then it really did show up, because my heated grips would switch themselves off. So, I mean, these Oxford hot grips have a voltage sensor, and essentially when the voltage gets too low, it turns itself off. And on my way to work, it would start flashing, even though I was up in the revs. Yeah, they would just turn off. And then I thought, well, I'll go and have a look at the magnets, and they had slipped. So I had to essentially take the engine out, rework. Well, alright, scrap that. I had to take the side of the engine off and have a look at the magnets. Took all the magnets out. Put them back in with JB Weld. Again, once done, you never have to look at it again. What else was there? I changed the exhaust system from standard to a Yoshimura single. I felt I had better mid-range, better top end. I really felt the difference, and it kind of smoothed things out a bit as well. It just felt more lively. I think with the dual exhaust system, it was more in the mid-range that you had the power and the grunt. Top end, it kind of faded out a little bit. So that was that. It was a stainless system. I was looking for a titanium can, but apparently they didn't make them anymore. What else was there? I ran the bike on Pirelli Angels, and they were a pretty good tyre. I had lots of confidence in the wet. I was quite happy with those. I don't need to tell you about the chain, because everyone gets gold chains. Well, maybe not. But what else was there? Right, things that went wrong with that 30-odd thousand miles that I did. Now, I think I was going to replace the throttle positioning sensor, but didn't have to in the end. I did the carb balance. I had a gauge that I could do that with. What else was there? I changed the screen, heated grips. Yeah, I said about the steering dampener. Yeah, what happened one time was the bike was running really rough up to 4,000 revs. Was it 4,000? 4,500. It wasn't until it got above 5 that it ran clear and smooth again. And the trouble is with bikes with fuel injection and stuff is that they've got all sorts of sensors here, there and everywhere. One in the airbox, one in the exhaust. And it turned out to be the, what do you call those things? The CO2 sensor in the exhaust. And I had the option of replacing it with a new sensor, and that was something like £90. And I thought, wow, that's a lot of money. Can I not just bypass the bloody thing? And so I bought a bypass kit for something like £20, and it's basically a resistor that plugs into the same socket as what the CO2 sensor would connect to, just to trick the ECU that it's connected. And I'll be perfectly honest, it ran better than it ever had. It ran better than it had ever ran since I owned it. And that kind of a bit of a revelation. I just figured, okay, the emissions and things like that, it's all on the low down for your exhaust system, just to kind of make it run lean. So overall, I did enjoy the bike, but I think for me, that was another thing. The fuel pump failed. We were doing the North Coast 500, and on our first stop, I turned the ignition back on, and there was this awful noise from the fuel tank, and I thought, what the hell was that? And she just wouldn't start. The fuel pump had basically worn through its bearing and basically ground itself to a halt. So luckily enough, there was a local who had a van that was kitted out to carry motorbikes in the back, and he gave me a lift home, and he would have done it for free. I think maybe he just wanted to get out of the house. Because he was saying, oh, I've got to go home and see what chores my wife has given me for the Sunday. But yeah, that was a bit of a heartbreaker, because I was looking forward to that trip, and I couldn't get a new fuel pump to rejoin them, because it was only a two-day trip that we had planned, and the fuel pump didn't come until about 3 days later, which was a bit of a shambles. But yeah, I've probably put up some photographs and things overlaid onto this video, just so you can see. She's a good bike, but you've just got to be wary of those things that I've mentioned. Those things that are things that can go wrong. And with the fuel pump, I'd always suggest not buying a £20 fuel pump from eBay. Buy something more quality. Don't buy something that's made in China. Somewhere in the 50 to 60 to 70 region. That would be more of an assurance, I think. Oh, what's going on here? So that's it. I can't think of anything more than I need to add to that. If you've got any questions, I can try and answer them for you. Just put them in the comments below. Oh, it looks like it's going to rain. And we'll see what we're going to do for the rest of the maybe through Christmas, I don't know. Might do, because my ride to work is mostly going to be in the dark, and I don't think the camera's too great. But I sold the SV to a friend. We did a deal, and I swapped it for his 636, and I had that bike for a while, but I had to sell that bike. There was nothing wrong with it. The only thing that I had an issue with was one of the coils had failed, so I had replaced the coil. It ran fine. Yeah, there's a video of it on my YouTube. That was me essentially selling it. I might tell you that story one day. But I absolutely love the bike. The only problem was I'm 6'2" and I just felt way too big for it. I mean, it's a fairly big sized, physically sized 600, and it was a shame to let it go, but yeah. I'm nearly 50 years old, so you take that with a little bit of awareness of my physical state. I'm actually quite fit. I'm not overweight or anything like that. I'm just getting older. Yeah, I traded that 636 for a VTL 1000. Now, I would still have the VTL 1000. We nicknamed the bike Bumblebee because my daughter basically was into Transformers at the time, and everybody loves Bumblebee. And yeah, I did. I really liked the VTL 1000. The only thing that let it down was just two things. The only reasons why I thought to myself, I'm not keeping this bike, is the fuel range. And it just didn't like to start below -5. I tried all sorts of things. I even rejetted it. No, just didn't cut the mustard, I'm afraid. And then I ended up with this glorious machine. It's a bike that I've always kind of pined for, but felt like it was way out of my reach. But I'll tell you a story about that another time. So, yeah, you'll have a good day, and we'll catch you on the next one.